You ever notice how the world feels different after midnight? Not just quieter, different. Like someone dimmed the noise of existence and suddenly you can actually hear yourself think. There are people who spend their entire lives waiting for this feeling. They sit through meetings, scroll through lunch breaks, push through dinner conversations, all while feeling like they're operating at 70% capacity. Then 11 p.m. hits, and suddenly they're awake. Actually awake. Their brain turns on like someone finally plugged them into the right outlet. If you're one of these people, you've probably been told your whole life that you're doing it wrong, that you need to fix your sleep schedule, that you're being irresponsible, that successful people wake up at 5 a.m. But what if the psychology behind this isn't about discipline at all? What if feeling more alive at night isn't a flaw in your system? It's just a different operating system entirely. Here's the thing nobody wants to admit. Our entire society is built around a morning person's nervous system. School starts at 8 a.m. Meetings are scheduled for 9. The golden hours of productivity are supposedly between 6 and noon. We've created an entire cultural mythology around morning routines and sunrise discipline. And if you don't fit that template, there's this subtle suggestion that something's wrong with you, that you lack willpower, that you're lazy or undisciplined or not optimized. But the psychology behind chronotypes, your natural sleep-wake preferences, shows this is largely biological, not behavioral. Some people's cortisol rises earlier, their melatonin drops faster, their circadian rhythm runs on a different clock. The problem isn't that night people are broken, it's that we've built a world that treats one chronotype as the default and everything else as a deviation that needs fixing. But here's where it gets more complex than just biology. Because it's not just about when your melatonin kicks in. There's something else happening in the psychology of people who feel more alive at night. For many of them, it's not just that they function better after dark, it's that darkness itself creates the psychological conditions they need to exist authentically. During the day, there's this constant hum of expectation. People can reach you. You're supposed to be on. The world is watching, evaluating, demanding. Your phone buzzes. Your email refreshes. Someone needs something. You're performing the role of yourself in the play of productivity. Then night comes and that audience disappears. The stage empties. Suddenly you're not performing anymore. You're just existing. And for some people, that distinction is everything. They're not more alive at night because they're night owls. They're more alive at night because that's when they finally get to stop being a persona and start being a person. Then there's the sensory piece that nobody talks about. Some brains are just wired to find daytime overwhelming. The brightness, the noise, the visual chaos of a world in motion. It's too much input. Their nervous system is constantly processing, filtering, defending against overstimulation. They're spending so much energy just managing the environment that there's nothing left for actual thinking or creating or feeling. It's like trying to have a conversation at a concert. You can do it, but you're exhausted afterward, and you're not even sure what you said. Night offers something different. Sensory reduction. The world gets quieter, darker, slower. The visual field simplifies, the cognitive load drops. And suddenly there's bandwidth for actual thought. For these people, feeling more alive at night isn't about preference. It's about finally having the mental space to process their own interiority without the world constantly interrupting. There's also a rebellious psychology to it that's worth examining. Some people are night people specifically because it's the only time that belongs entirely to them. They've given the day to their job, their family, their obligations. They've performed, produced, responded, accommodated. They've been what everyone needed them to be for 12-16 hours straight. Night is the quiet rebellion. It's the time they steal back from a world that's always taking. And yes, they're tired the next day. Yes, it's probably not optimal for their health. But the psychology here isn't about optimization. It's about autonomy. It's about having a few sacred hours where nobody gets to make demands on their attention or energy, where they can think thoughts that don't serve a purpose, pursue interests that don't produce value, exist without justification. For these people, giving up the night would feel like giving up the last piece of themselves, like surrendering the only territory they still control. And then there's the creative psychology of it. There's a reason so many artists, writers, and deep thinkers describe themselves as night people. It's not romantic mythology. It's about how the brain works. During the day, your prefrontal cortex is running the show. You're in executive function mode, planning, organizing, responding to external demands. You're using convergent thinking, finding the single right answer, making logical connections, operating within known frameworks. This is great for getting things done, but it's terrible for creativity. Night does something different to consciousness. As you get tired, that tight prefrontal control loosens. Your brain starts making weirder connections. You enter more divergent thinking patterns, exploring multiple possibilities, making unusual associations, accessing ideas that seemed inaccessible during the day. Some of the best insights don't come from disciplined morning clarity. They come from that strange, liminal mental state at 2 a.m. when your brain is tired enough to stop censoring itself, but alert enough to still capture the ideas. Night people aren't avoiding productivity. They're accessing a different kind of cognitive state that daytime simply doesn't offer. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We've pathologized an entire chronotype because it doesn't align with industrial capitalism's preferred schedule. We've turned a biological variation into a moral failing. But the psychology of feeling more alive at night reveals something crucial about human diversity. We don't all thrive under the same conditions. Some people need morning sunlight and early structure. Some people need midnight silence and autonomy. Neither is superior. Neither is broken. They're just different nervous systems trying to find the conditions where they can actually function as themselves. The tragedy isn't that night people exist. It's that we've built a world that treats their natural rhythm as a problem to be solved, rather than a valid way of being human. So if you're someone who feels like you finally wake up when everyone else is going to sleep, maybe the question isn't how to fix yourself. Maybe it's how to build a life that actually works with your wiring instead of constantly fighting against it. Maybe it's about recognizing that feeling more alive at night isn't laziness or poor discipline. It's your system telling you when it actually has the conditions it needs to function. And maybe, just maybe, listening to that is the most psychologically healthy thing you can do. If this resonated, there's more psychology like this that actually makes sense of how you operate. Hit subscribe for more of these explorations. And I'm curious, are you a night person living in a morning person's world, or have you figured out how to build a life around your actual rhythm? Drop it in the comments. I read them all.